In a moment, Ropiwa Madzena will come through with your business update. But just to show her that I could do this business thing if I wanted to, let me tell you this. The recent heavy rains damaged maize fields, which could have a knock-on effect on prices. Grain SA estimates that 22% of grain farmers expect more than 60% of their white maize area to be negatively impacted by the excessive rain. Grain SA Economist Luan van der Walt joins me now to talk to us about that situation. So how concerned are your members, Luan, from the survey that you have done, that the heavy rains could impact, and which grains in particular?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon for you and everybody. I think the first thing to mention is that there are some concerns out there amongst our members and producers as a whole. As you've mentioned in the survey we've done, we've seen that there are some areas in the country which is heavily affected, especially the Western Free State areas. If I can mention some towns which is close by to the areas which was affected the most, it's Bothaville, Wesselsbron, Hoopstad, Bultfontein, Hertzogville. So those areas were affected with the heavy rain quite a lot there. And then there are some other areas in the country which looks better due to the higher rainfall we've received this season. So for that specific area, it's quite a big area, or white maize producing area, the towns and the districts I've just mentioned there. So there are some concerns. And for those individual farmers out there, it's really bad. It's bad seeing such a good year that started off initially so good in terms of the planting and the progress of the planting, and then all this heavy downpours is causing troubles for them. So for that particular areas, it's very bad. There's some farmers who lost parts of the field totally that won't be recoverable, but there is also some areas, so it's not all the hectares that is lost. It's a part of it, but some of the hectares might still be doing good with the recent sunny days we are having now currently. So there might be a bit of a control there, damage control, which we might see.
Luan, for the non-farmers among us, why is heavy rain not a good thing? Why does it need, for instance, in particular for grain farming, why do we need just optimal rain as opposed to excessive rain? What damage does it do?
Yes, yeah. So I think it's a good question. Sometimes, especially the last few years which we came through, we heard about the drought and how bad the drought is for the farmers, and everybody was concerned about a drought. And now it's easy for someone to say, yes, but the farmers, they had a few years of drought, and all we heard was just drought, and now all we heard is excessive rain. It might sometimes feel for people like farmers, they don't know what they want, because the one year is too dry and the next year there's too much water. But I think, as everything in life, too much of even a good thing isn't always good there. And that is exactly what happened with the rain now. So initially it started off very good, the farmers could plant, and then all this heavy downpours come, and now there's two things which has an impact on that. The first thing is the heavy rains make the fields too wet. So for farmers who couldn't plant early enough, and when the rain started, it might be that it might have been too dry to plant, and then when it started to rain, it never stopped rain, so they couldn't get into the field. So that actually means that they couldn't plant. So if you can't plant, there's no crop. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, when you already planted, and especially when the seeds or the plants is still small, maize, soybeans, sunflowers, when they are still small, the plant couldn't handle all that amount or that loss of water, so the plant actually drowns. And then if the plant drowned, it won't yield or reap a yield later on in the season. So that is why optimal rainfall is very important. Yeah. It's always important not to get too little, but also not too much, because that also causes damages. and then the spillover effects from there on could be big.
In fact, you take me to my last point with you that I want to flesh out. 22% of the over 400 farmers that you surveyed expecting that about 60% of their yield could be affected. Can we expect knock-on effects in terms of the market, given the size of those that expect some kind of impact from the heavy rains?
Yes, yeah, this is currently a very difficult one since we are still early in the season. So we've seen that there are, as you've mentioned, it is quite substantial part of the country and in specific areas predominantly. If you look at areas like, for instance, that Western Free State area, they have a lot of water damages specifically, but in other parts of the country, like for instance the Northwest and even the Eastern Free State and the Mpumalanga, Highveld area, it looks better there. So it's always a question about the weightings of that 400, over the 400 farmers, where are most of the answers, where does most of the answers came from. And we've seen that a lot of the answers was from that Western Free State area. So for the Western Free State, it's bad, and then it reflects, might reflect worse on the total picture. But it is currently early in the season. It's very difficult to tell now. Later this week, the Crop Estimates Committee will release its first preliminary area planted. Then we might have a bit of a better understanding of the area that has been planted and the area that couldn't be planted. And then towards February, the end of February, we will get the first crop estimates for the season. And only by then we will be able to actually start to tell what the real impact is on the broader perspective of the South African market and the production. Yeah. And then we might start seeing what spillover effects it might cause. But at this stage, it's very early to say it's going to have a drastic spillover effect on prices due to shortages and so forth. Right. It's almost impossible to say right now.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. Luan van der Walt is an economist at Grain SA, weighing in on the heavy rains that we have seen in recent times.